The Gaza Strip faces severe humanitarian crisis. The Gaza Strip is enduring a severe humanitarian crisis, as of July 2025, characterized by widespread starvation, mass displacement, and a collapsed healthcare system, driven by ongoing conflict and a stringent Israeli blockade. Since October 7, 2023, at least 59,219 Palestinians have been killed, and 143,045 injured, per Gaza's Ministry of Health. Israeli military operations, including airstrikes and ground offensives in Deir al-Balah, continue to cause mass casualties, with strikes targeting schools, tents, and aid seekers. Over 135 UN relief workers have been killed, marking this as the deadliest conflict for UN staff. The population in the Gaza Strip is facing an imminent risk of famine due to severe restrictions on food and aid. A complete blockade from March to late May 2025 halted all supplies, and while limited aid resumed via the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, it remains insufficient. Acute malnutrition among children under 5 has more than doubled from March to June 2025, with 1 in 10 children screened by UNRWA showing signs of malnourishment. Food prices have surged by 350 to 4,567% compared to pre-blockade levels, and staples like meat, poultry, and eggs are nearly unavailable. Bread consumption has dropped significantly, and 95% of households face severe financial hardship. Over 1,054 Palestinians, including children, have been killed by Israeli forces while attempting to access food at militarized distribution points since May 27, 2025. The UN has reported deaths from starvation, with 18 recorded in a single day, including for children, highlighting the man-made and politically driven crisis. Approximately 90% of Gaza's 2.3 million people are displaced, many multiple times, with over 762,500 newly displaced since the ceasefire collapsed on March 18, 2025. Israeli military displacement orders cover 88% of Gaza's territory, forcing people into overcrowded, makeshift shelters, damaged buildings, or open areas with no safe refuge. A recent order on July 20, 2025 in Deir al-Balah, a humanitarian hub, has further disrupted aid operations, affecting critical infrastructure like medical facilities and warehouses. Infrastructure in the Gaza Strip has been severely disrupted. Over 80% of health facilities are damaged or destroyed, with only half of Gaza's 36 hospitals partially functional and none fully operational in the north. UNRWA reports a 60% shortage of essential medicines, including antibiotics and hypertension drugs, with no aid delivery since March 2, 2025. Over 600 attacks on healthcare facilities have been recorded since October 2023, exacerbating shortages of fuel, medical supplies, and oxygen. An estimated 5,000 cancer patients urgently need treatment abroad, but evacuation lists are backlogged with 10,000 people waiting. Disease outbreaks, including meningitis, are rising due to poor hygiene and overcrowded conditions. A complete lack of electricity since October 2023, coupled with fuel shortages, has crippled hospitals, sewage systems, and water desalination plants, leading to a 90% drop in electricity availability. Over 80% of water wells and croplands are destroyed, severely limiting access to clean water and local food production. Only 40% of drinking water facilities are functional. Agricultural losses, including 80% of cropland and 83% of wells, alongside livestock and fishing capacity declines, have further reduced food availability. Israel's blockade, intensified since March 2025, has severely restricted aid, with UNRWA barred from bringing in supplies for over 4 months. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, backed by Israel and the U.S., has distributed 52 million meals since late May but operates militarized hubs, where hundreds have been killed. The UN rejects this model as contrary to international standards. Recent reports indicate Israel will begin airdrops and establish humanitarian corridors for UN convoys starting July 27, 2025. Though effectiveness remains unclear, UN agencies face impediments, with over half of planned aid missions in June 2025 denied or obstructed by Israeli authorities. The UN, EU, UK, and others have condemned Israel's blockade and militarized aid distribution, with calls for investigations into starvation as a method of war. The UN Human Rights Office has raised concerns about conditions incompatible with continued existence in Gaza, citing potential violations of international humanitarian law. A ceasefire in January 2025 briefly allowed aid and returns to northern Gaza, but but its collapse in March reignited hostilities. The crisis is described as man-made and exacerbated by political decisions, particularly Israel's blockade and restrictions on UNRWA, which is banned from operating in Israeli territory and faces visa denials for international staff. Despite Israeli claims of adequate aid inside Gaza, UN agencies report thousands of pallets remain undistributed due to access restrictions and violence at distribution points. The international community, including UNICEF and the Red Cross, emphasizes the need for an immediate, sustained ceasefire, unrestricted aid access, and respect for international humanitarian law to avert further catastrophe. Gaza's humanitarian situation is catastrophic, with starvation, displacement, and healthcare collapse affecting nearly the entire population. While limited aid measures have resumed, they are far from sufficient, and ongoing military operations and restrictions continue to deepen the crisis. Immediate action to lift the blockade, ensure safe aid delivery, and reinstate a ceasefire is critical to saving lives.